Today, so we'll be walking you through the top 10 best cars to snipe in Forza Horizon 5, and this can be used for multiple purposes, whether you're simply trying to make some money by sniping these cars at a very cheap rate and reselling them for tens of millions, or you're trying to add some of these to your car collection. Obviously, the best cars to snipe in the game will generally be some of the rarest in the batch as well, so maybe you could find this opportunity to add some of these to your collection as I mentioned. Let's go and get started, and the first thing I always generally touch on in these top 10 cars to snipe videos is that you should always be sniping at the main Horizon Festival area. The reason being, for whatever reasons, a slightly lower input lag when you're at the main festival versus your home. It's been that way since Horizon 3, pretty strange overall. Now, some of these cars, of course, you guys will be able to find pretty easily, and if you're watching this video a little bit later down the line, perhaps some of them now in the backstage pass, but ultimately it will still be a very valid way if you guys begin to use this method to make a lot of cars, a lot of money pretty quickly. First off is of course going to be the Plymouth Belvedere. So there are quite a few different Plymouth options you can choose from, and some of them are still pretty rare in the game outside of just the Belvedere, but this will be the main one we were talking about in this video. Now, it's up to you whether you want to use max buyout settings, and that's dependent on what you're trying to achieve. If you're simply trying to get the cheapest car possible to resell for profit, it's very important you want to add a max buyout filter of 11 million credits. Why? Because this ensures you won't accidentally see one pop up in the auction house after minutes or tens of minutes of waiting and buy it out just to see that it's actually been listed at 20 million, being the max buyout price you can set a car for. As a result, if you bought it at 20 million, you can't resell for any profit. So this ensures only cars 11 million or below are going to appear in your filter or in your search, which means you'll only see those cars appear. But of course, if you don't care about price at all, you simply want to get one of these into your collection, remove that max buyout filter and go in and snipe away. One recommendation I always have is to always buy the cars from the outside menu. So you can actually buy these cars from outside of them by going like Y and then buy out and clicking it twice. A lot of beginners will actually instead click into the car, wait for it to load, and then go buy now here. That takes around 2-3 times longer, and when you're trying to snipe the rarest cars in the game, every second counts. So definitely keep that trick in mind. Now, the second car I'll be talking about is of course going to be a pretty unconventional one I've actually never discussed in a video. It's going to be the Razor TS19. This car, of course, very rare and exclusive. It's super difficult to get. Usually only a handful of these will be listed up on the auction house per hour, and if you are lucky enough to see one of those, pretty good chance of sniping it because it's not quite as highly in demand as some other cars on this list. Now, people often ask me, well, what price can you usually expect these to actually appear for me on the auction house? Well, usually if someone's accidentally listing this up because they don't know how much it's worth, or in very common cases they're trying to give it to a friend, you can usually get them for just 200,000 to 300,000 credits, which means if you're reselling them for at least 10 to 20 million, that's a pretty insane margin. And just quickly, most of you watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel, so if you want to help us hit 150k and stay up to date with the best Forza glitches, content, news and more, be sure to tap that button. It really helps out a lot. Other times people might intentionally sell them with a bit of a margin, like selling for 5 million because they're trying to get quick money, even though it's worth 20 million. So in that case, you're still getting a multi-million-dollar payday in terms of a margin. So it definitely does differ on the car, but it's very certain you guys will make a pretty steep profit as long as you're using those filters. Now, the third car I'll of course be walking you through is going to be one of the rarest cars in the entire game. It's going to be right here, the E92 M3 GTS, very rare, arguably the rarest car in the entire game. It's definitely the rarest remaining BMW in the game. The M5 competition was up there, but since that one actually got added into the festival playlist or the backstage pass, sorry, it's no longer that rare. But the E92 M3 GTS, extremely hard to get, and I can go show you guys multiple in my garage. For example, if you want to get a reference on exactly which car it is you're going for example, if you guys don't see many of them appear on the auction house, it's probably pretty rare. It's this one right here, and if you guys for reference see that I've got the highest level in the game, in fact 3 of every single rare car in the game, even a billion super wheel spins, you guys can of course check that pinned comment to learn more, because you can do the same thing instantaneously on Xbox, PC and PS5. I definitely recommend it if you guys just want to get all these rare cars without having to spend hours and hours trying to snipe them. The next car I'll be talking about in this video is of course going to be the 2013 Chevrolet Pro Stock Camaro. This goes without saying, it's the best drag car in the entire game. The good thing about this car is that so many people are trying to get them or give them to their friends. There's a lot of liquidity, so a lot of these will pop on the auction house. You'll see dozens and dozens of these per hour, which therefore gives you ample opportunities to try and snipe these cars, and they're an instant resale at 10 to 20 million just based on how highly desirable they are. For example, this is why it would have been important to have the max buyout filter applied, because for example, even if I back out and go into this car again, it's instantly being sold. Now, if you wanted to pay 20 million, you could of course just purchase that, but if we're doing this for the sake of making profit, the max buyout filter is going to ensure that the car doesn't get seated in the filter, and therefore you don't accidentally spend more than what you might have wanted to. Now, the next car I'll be talking about on this list is of course going to be the Nissan Nismo Sentra. The Sentra is another very rare one. Of course, there are a couple different Nissans you can snipe and make a lot of money with, but the Sentra is definitely got to be up there. Of course, super difficult to get, not too many on the auction house, which makes it a very good recipe for being able to resell for a lot of money, if you guys are able to get your hands on one. Now, similarly, there are actually a couple different Cadillacs you can use for this as well. So we'll be doing blending these both together because they're both very similar and both very lucrative. It's actually with the CT5V and the CT4V. Both these cars were both added to the game at the exact same period of time in the same Horizon Festival playlist, and since then have not been re-added. So they're very difficult to get, very exclusive, and as a result, super good opportunities to be able to snipe these cars. Now, they're both pretty cool. Maybe they'll be added to the Backstage Pass soon, or at least one of them, so who knows, but in the meantime, not many of these in circulation, therefore a great opportunity to try buy these at a very favorable price. Now, we'll see if any can pop up at a higher price if I remove this max buy it filter, just to get a full perspective. As sometimes there will be more of these cars listed for 20 million, and therefore they're not as rare as you may think, but if you see none of them even at that price point, you know it's going to be a pretty good car with a great sniping opportunity. Now, a relatively easier car to snipe is actually with the Ford Bronco Raptor. Now, this one is still very rare, but generally it seems that there are more of these being put up on the auction house as of late, because it has been added to the game more times than some of the other cars you might have seen before, like the new Cadillacs or the Razor Take-On Speed. So this one a little bit easy to get your hands on. It may not be as lucrative. It's not going to sell for 20 million instantly like some of the other cars in this list, but it's definitely going to be one that you can buy for 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 credits, resell in the millions. So a great margin there. And if you guys have a lot of patience with cars like these, you can make a lot of money, generally quicker than other glitches. That's why I do recommend sniping cars. Ultimately is just a better way to make money, but it doesn't work for everyone. For example, if you've got slow Wi-Fi or you're not patient enough to be able to wait for these cars, and by the way, the next is going to be the Mercedes AMG GT Black series. Is a very good car to snipe, very, very rare as well. What I was saying is that if you don't have the patience to sit here and snipe, then perhaps doing glitches or exploits is going to be a better way of making money. But if you are happy to sit here, be pretty repetitive until you see a car pop up, very good way to make money, because some hours you might be able to get 5 cars, you can resell and make 50 million credits, but of course some other hours you may make 0. But overall, it will balance out as being a very lucrative way of making money, and that's why I recommend to make these lists every month or so to stay up to date with the current trends in game. The final car I'll be covering in this video is of course going to be the Mini 1965 FE, the 4th edition variation, one of the rarest cars in the entire game. You'll very rarely see this on the auction house. This is a pretty cool car. It's a 4th edition car, and it's also electric. A 1965 car, it's electric, definitely a pretty cool car to see in Forza. Now, I have actually added this on my list a few times for being one of the rarest cars in the game, definitely also one of the best to snipe as well. So what I recommend with cars like this is 10 cars to choose from. Which one should you snipe? Leave it up to yourself to see what you guys like. For example, I'd recommend go through this list, see which cars you have the most luck with. Like if you see one car you're choosing, such as the Pro Stock Camaro, and you see a lot of them appearing, maybe focus on that car, snipe a few of them, then move on to the next. You'll find which ones you think are the best, which ones you think have the most cars and popularity that allows more chances for them to be sniped, and then you can narrow it down and specialize on one of those cars. And again, if you guys see I've got 100 million Super Wheel spins and you want to learn more, do check the pinned comment. You guys can get it literally instantly for all platforms. Definitely a fast way of getting everything you want in Forza without the endless grind. So check it out, like and subscribe for more, and good luck with your sniping.